Welcome to our shir, Parshas Vayechei, Tavshin Pei Aleph, and we sadly come to the end of Sefer Parshas, and we'll miss it. But Baruch Hashem, the good news is that next week we'll start with Parshas Shmos and all of Klal Yisrael. So we're ending the Tekufa of the Bnei Yisrael as individuals, of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and then the Shiftei Ka, and then they're going to become an Ummah. And that's really what the brachas of Yaakov are going to be in the Sedras. He's going to be giving him a bracha as now you're not just Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, Yisachar, Zvulun, etc. You're now going to be the progenitor of a whole shevet, thousands and thousands of people, and you need to rise to that level, which will help us understand something I'd like to say before we get to the Birchas Yaakov. And that is the bracha that Yaakov gave to Ephraim and Menashe. And Yaakov tells Yosef, he presents it in front of him. Vayar Yisrael is Bnei Yosef, and he sees Bnei Yosef. Vayomer, he says, shockingly, Mi Eila. Who are they? And of course, we always ask the question, Mi Eila? It's their grandfather. He's been learning with them for the last 16 years. So why is he saying Mi Eila? Who are they? Vayomer Yosef El Avi Bonayhem Asher Nasan Li Elikim. They're my children Hashem has given me. And then he said, he'll give him a bracha. And Rashi says, why did he say these words, Me'ela? What was he pointing out? He was saying, She'enim Ruya Levracha. They weren't right for bracha because, we'll talk about that at a different time, we've talked about it in the past, but they weren't right for bracha. Frektias Nain L'Taira. How could that be that they weren't worthy of bracha? You see that he knew them for 16 years. He was learning with them b'chavrusa. Says he learned with Ephraim. He knew Menashe. He knew them. Undoubtedly, he gave them many brachas along the way. Zaydi gives brachas to his kids, to his eniklach all the time. Zaydis love to give brachas to their grandchildren. It's a big thing. Sokta b'znayin l'Torah, an amazing thing. He said, when they were at the level of a child, a young man, an enikal, they're worthy of bracha. But now, as we said before, they're entering a new tekufa, a much higher level. They're now going to become part of the Shiftei Ka. They're going to become Shvatim, Ephraim and Menashe, Reuven, Shimon, Yili. Ephraim and Menashe are going to become great. They're going to go on to greatness and they're going to have also tens of thousands of people coming from them. To get a bracha like that, you have to be on a higher level. And he said, Mi Eila, who are they? Are they at that level or not? And Yosef said, yes, they're my children, and I brought them up. And they're worthy of bracha, and right away Yaakov said, no problem, give them a bracha. So that's Pshat. He says, at one level, you could be worthy of a bracha. And at the next level, maybe not. And this is an amazing lesson that we learn. We all know how important a bracha is. How much Yitzchak, the bracha from Yitzchak to Yaakov, the bracha from Yaakov to his children, the bracha of Moshe Rabbeinu, how important these brachas are. Avram Avinu has become the source of bracha. Bracha means something. It's tangible. It can change things. We all know stories of brachas. Everyone tells us stories of brachas that change lives, that help things. We give, if somebody needs a shidduch, we give bracha. Somebody needs a refuah shleim, we give a bracha. Everything we give a bracha. But it means also that the recipient of the bracha also has an achrayas, not just the mavarach. Hamavarach is baruch, as we say. But the person getting it also needs. I remember the Tanker Rebbitzin, Zecher Tzadekas Levracha, Schus Yagan Alein, the Hagler Tanker Rebbitzin used to tell us when we'd ask for bracha, she'd say you have to believe in the bracha for the bracha to be chal. You have to be worthy of the bracha. I know it's interesting when you get an edus at a chasana, so the Masada Kedushin tells you do tshuva, because you have to have Edom Ksherim. So in the few seconds it takes you to walk from your seat up to there, you got to do a quick tshuva. So you should be worthy of being an aid. In the same way, you have to be worthy of a bracha. So if a person's a child, they can be worthy of bracha as a child. The child doesn't need to do much to be worthy of bracha. But as we grow, as we get older, we have to be worthy of bracha in order to receive that bracha. We know that the Pirkei Avos gives us the stages in life. 10, 13, 20, 30, 40, Arbaim Labina, Shishim Zikna, Gvura, Shmonim Gvura, all these different, those are milestones in life. And we have to be at that milestone. and we're at that milestone, we can be worthy of brachas. The Rebbe shall help, and we should all be zoichet to go to the madrega. When we get the bracha, we're worthy of that bracha. So we come to the Shiftei Ka, and they're getting their brachas. They're getting these choshev brachas. And the first three brachas, you almost wonder what they thought of their bracha. The brachas, most beautiful, beautiful brachas, giving them chachlile miyayin micholov, Yaisa Parasayan, Yehuda Gurarye, beautiful brachas. But the first three, Reuven, Shimon, Levi, they must have been, you think, on the surface, they wish they were somewhere else. They don't seem to be such great brachas. But Emerson, they were brachas. But in Yaakov's greatness, in Yaakov's emes, the Yaakov, they were tifa brachas, and we have to understand them. So I'd like to just dwell on Shimon and Levi and share with you a beautiful Chassam Sofer that I heard to explain an episode in Parshas, Parshas Lech Lecha. So let's take a look. We take a look at Shimon the Levi Achim, Klei Chamas Mecheroseim, right? They wiped out Shechem, so the Klei Chamas weapons of war were their tools of trade. Besoidem al Tava Nafshi, I don't want to go in their secret councils. We know there was Shimon with Zimri, Nish Push the Zachem. Bekolam al Techad Kvaidi, Kairach. I don't want to be in the Kal Kairach. I don't want to be part of all of this. Ki be'apam hargu ish, because in their anger they killed an ish, means all of Shechem was considered an ish. But suddenly Iker Shor, they tried to get rid of Yosef at Tzaddik. And then it says, Or apam ki oz, ve'avrasim ki kashem yad. And so far, it seems a little bit difficult. But then he says something that maybe we can see where this was all going, and really the bracha within. It says, Achalkim b'Yakov, I'm going to separate them in Yaakov, v'afitzim, I'm going to scatter them in Yisrael. I'm going to scatter them all over. And Rashi tells us that who became the Malamdei Tinaikis, who became the teachers of Klal Yisrael, who became the people who were going to do the kahuna? Shimon and Levi. Shimon was going to be the Mikri Dardiki, they're going to be the Soifrim. The most heilige professions in Klal Yisrael went to Shimon. If Shimon was you would think on the surface of Psukim, how do you let him be the Mikri Dardiki? How do you let him be the Soifrim? How do you let Levi in the base of Migdash? But the answer is that really they had enormous kaichas. What he was telling us, they have enormous kaichas, but there's a caveat in those kaichas. And that caveat lies in the words, Achalkim b'Yakov afitzim b'Yisrael. So to do that, to understand that, I'd like to share with you a beautiful Chassam Sofer. If we go all the way back to Parshas Lech Lecha, and we go in Perek Yud Gimel Pasuk Zayin, it says, Vayiri bein Roye Miknei Avram, there was a fight, there was a disagreement, a dispute. Right? We all know that Avram shepherds muzzled, and they didn't muzzle, and so on. Ubein Miknei Roye Light. Vaknani v'apriz Yozbaretz. Okay, Yozbaretz. Vayomer Avram El Light. So what do we do about this? We're having our shepherds are fighting. We're having trouble. There's going to be there's rancor, there's strife, there's discord. So what do? So he tells them, Al noti meriv beini beinechem, let there not be a fight between us. O bein raya bein rayach, between my shepherds and yours. Ki anoshim achem anachnu, because we are brothers. Zok the Chassam Sofer, and reads the pasuk just a little bit different and puts the dagish in a little bit different place, and you have an entire other reading. Says the Chassam Sofer, sometimes the path to shalom does not lie in two people being together in the room or being together all the time. Sometimes the path to shalom lies in a separation between the two, and a little bit of them having their own space, so to speak. And in that way, the relationship can continue. Shalom does not mean always together. Shalom can sometimes mean a little bit of separation. Achdus doesn't mean every minute together, or even agreeing on everything. Achdus is it's a type of it's a frame of mind. So Zok the Chassam Sofer, and he reads it like this. He says, Al no. He says, Vayomer Avram Eloi. Avram says, Al no, please no. Tihi meriva beini b'nechem. Let there be between us a strife. Ki anoshim acham anachim, because we want to stay brothers. If we're going to stay together, there's going to be all of this fighting, and there's going to be all of this schluggerei between our shepherds. We're going to get involved, right? Because that's what we have to do. We have to back up your employees. And we're going to start fighting with each other. Chas v'sholom. Light, we're doing great. We get along. But if we're going to have our shepherds fighting with each other, not going to get along. So therefore, says Avram, Alna, timeriva ben yibenechem, ki anosh machna. That's how we're going to stay brothers. Zok Chassam Sofer. That's what we say in our davening at the end of Shemoneh Esrei. What do we say? Aisa shalom b'maimav hu yasa shalom aleinu. He who makes peace in heaven should make peace by us. What's peace in heaven got to do with peace by us? What does one got to do with the other? Heaven's there, we're here. Because you go up into heaven and you see the stars, and they're mighty, mighty stars. And they're millions of years of light years apart, millions of miles apart. What happens if two stars get too close to each other? You know what happens? They explode. They blow up. And therefore the Rebbeinu Shalom in his great wisdom said for that star to be who that star needs to be, they need to be separate from other stars because they'll kill each other, they'll blow each other up. So Aisa Shalom B'Mraimav, we daven. He who makes peace in heaven, that type of peace, who Yasa Shalom Aleinu, should make Shalom on us. When we need Shalom, sometimes to be a separation. You know, they say good fences make good neighbors, as they zuk the Welt. You know, you have a peace treaty, and they say there'll be a border, and we'll all get along. Start going at each other, it's not going to be good. That's what Bilam said, Ma toiva lecha Yaakov mishkanosecha Yisrael. And he says, Ka'ahalim, like tents, their tents didn't face each other. Everyone kept a little bit separate. You have to know when shalom is the shalom of togetherness, and when the shalom is the shalom of separateness, of separation. So Aisa Shalom b'Maimav, hu Yasa Shalom. Al Noah, Ti Meriva Beini U'Beinecha. And that's why we say in the end of Shemoneh Esrei, we also say, and those who say it, the daven Sfarad say it twice a day, and those daven Ashkenaz say once a day, Sim Shalom Toiva. What does that mean, Sim Shalom Toiva? Isn't Shalom good? By definition? No. Because there'll be a Shalom which is going to cause strife. So we ask for Shalom Toiva, the right type of Shalom. The Shalom that brings people together, and that's the true Achdus. Because sometimes people need some space. And it's such a true thing, not only on the global level, which we're talking about, but on the private level as well, on the family level. Sometimes you have to know when to give a person space. Husband and wife, parents and children, and do everything you can to make shalom. Learn from Avraham Avinu to make shalom. And therefore we come back to Shimon v'Levi. Shimon v'Levi had extraordinary kaiches. They became the teachers. They became the kahanim. They became the leadership. But they were so extraordinary that together they were like two great stars that could blow things up. So we had to make a separation between them because of their greatness. So Yaakov Avinu was telling really a bracha. You know, there's such greatness within these two people. Together, it's problematic. And he lists it. And he lists all the different cases where together it's problematic. But separate, great things will come. And therefore he says, Achalkem b'Yaakov, I'll separate them, you have Afitzim b'Yisrael, I'll spread them out all of Klal Yisrael. Why do you want to spread Shimon and Levi into all of Klal Yisrael? Right? Because Shimon, remember, did not have their own land either. They were within the Shevet of Yehuda. They didn't have a separate piece of land. They were within Yehuda. And Levi was separate. So why? Because they were so great. Because they had such kaiches. Because they were so amazing. Together they could kill out a whole city at 13 years old. Mabel Arayin. To do what they did, it takes real greatness. And therefore, Kadosh Baruch Hu said, I'm going to spread them out because I want your greatness. I don't want to bottle it up in one little place. I want you everywhere. Shimon Levi, you're so great, I want you everywhere. Not only in one place. So we see, Baruch Hashem, at Shimon v'Levi, we look at it and we say, that's a bracha? And the answer is yes. It's a beautiful bracha. It's saying that when you two are separate, and you'll conquer the world, and there'll be shalom, a shalom that will last for all of Klal Yisrael. And there will be an achdus that will last for all of Klal Yisrael. So Baruch Hashem, we were Vayechei to just talk about two of the birchas of Yaakov, a little bit of Shimon, a little bit of Levi, a little bit of Ephraim Menashe. There's so many other brachas that Yaakov gave. But the bottom line is that he showed us the way, and the way is bracha. Give a bracha. But two things have to happen in bracha. The person who's getting it has to make himself worthy of the bracha, and the person who's giving the bracha has to give a discerning bracha. He has to give a correct bracha. I once went to the Tanker Ruv and asked him he should daven a bracha refuah shlema for a person who was critically ill, who Nebuch was nifter a few hours later, and he said, and he put up his hands, he said, what can I do? He knew when to daven for this, he knew when to daven for that. We talked about the Rav, the Rabbis will talk about the Rav. The Rav was an amazing person who gave brachas. People used to give brachas. I remember one story that happened, mentioned the Rav L'Toiv, that one year, Saif Yamav, he gave a bracha. There were 12 Bachrim from the Mir that came to him. They used to make a Suda, Kriyas Yamsuf night, because that's a time of Kosh Kriyas Yamsuf, and so on, and also it's the Kasha Zivuga Shal Adam Kriyas Yamsuf, and all this wonderful Kasha B'Zayin Shal Kriyas Yamsuf. All these things are Kriyas Yamsuf. He used to give brachas that night. So one year, 11 out of 12 people that he gave brachas to got engaged. So the next year there were hundreds of people mobbed the shul. They had to take him out the back door to save him. But you give a bracha, it has to be a bracha you know how to give. And that's why Ram Avinu, we said before, Hashem gave him the bracha, the kayach of bracha. You have to know how to use a bracha, you have to know how to give a bracha, and you have to get a bracha. And Baruch Hashem, Yaakov Avinu gave a bracha, and every little bit of his brachas, learn it well on Shabbos. Every single bracha is a gem that Yaakov gave vadracha for the Shvatim and for all of us. Shall be Vayechei to live up to the brachas of Yaakov. And Yetz Hashem, with that, we will all have a wonderful Shabbos. Have a good Shabbos.